protect the people.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2022 Avatar sequel, Avatar: The Way of Water. The film is directed, of course, by James Cameron, who also co-wrote the film, produced the film, probably did the catering and all the rest of it. And it stars Sam Worthington, Zoe Saldana, Sigourney Weaver, Stephen Lang, Kate Winslet and Cliff Curtis. Now, as I mentioned, this is the direct sequel to the giant hit of, was it 2009? Avatar. Now, the first Avatar is a film I certainly enjoy and respect, but I don't adore. I don't think it's like, a masterpiece or anything like that, even though it was such a giant hit at the time. But I think it's fair to say there has been a long gap between films. And personally, for me, my enthusiasm for the sequel kind of left a while ago, you know what I mean? But it seems I'm in the minority because it's absolutely doing gangbusters at the box office. And this time round, the film once again focuses on Sam Worthington's character Jake and his now life partner, played by Zoe Saldana. It's set some years after the first film. They now have a family, they have a number of children, and they are living an idyllic life on Andorra. However, the Sky People, i.e. the humans, return as Earth is now unsustainable and they need, essentially, Pandora to make it humans' new home. So they have come back to try and reclaim the planet. And they specifically target Jake and his family, this time by resurrecting Stephen Lang's character, who you may remember died in the first film. Well, he's brought back as an avatar himself, as well as many of his soldiers in his squad, and they are tasked with hunting down Jake, who was essentially the leader of the rebellion in the first one, in order to prevent them having another successful rebellion against the Sky People. Jake, this time round, is only really interested in protecting his family, so he heads off to a new area of the planet that is dominated by water, and his people in this area have adapted to this water, and in order for him to stay there with his family, he and his family need to do the same. However, Stephen Lang and the Sky People aren't far behind, and it inevitably leads to a confrontation. Right. What are my thoughts on Avatar: The Way of Water? Well, other than the obvious, the fact that the film is spectacular to look at. I mean, truly beautiful. I mean, some of the most spectacular special effects and CGI I think you'll ever see. At times, it almost feels like you're watching like an animation rather than, like a live action film. It's, it's literally at times quite jarring in a sense of what you're watching. But it is impressively shot. The effects are stunning. The locations are stunning, and it just looks tremendous. I have to say, in regards to delivering a really impactful sequel, I think it kind of does fall short a little bit. Now, we know that this is only one of a number of sequels that James Cameron is wanting to deliver for the Avatar films. So this doesn't feel like a standalone film. But to me, it also feels like The Force Awakens of the Avatar world. This feels almost like a very similar film to the first film in a lot of ways, I think. In the first film, we've got Jake Sully, who is like a fish out of water. He becomes this avatar. He's got to kind of get used to his new environment, his new body, his new peoples, become accepted, so on and so forth. And then eventually he falls in love with, the people, the planet, and then, they rebel against the Sky People. This film is, in a lot of ways, is very, very similar. Now, we get the setup of how idyllic his life is with his wife and his children, all this kind of stuff, and then the Sky People turn up, and then you get some early scenes of battles of them rebelling, and then it soon becomes clear that his family is in direct danger and he's got to make a change. So when they do make that change and they go to this other area of the planet that's dominated by water and they have to adapt, Similar story again. You know, he has to adapt to his new environment, but not only him, his children do. And for much of this film, the Jake character is sidelined for his children. Now, that's not necessarily a criticism from me, but it does feel like Sam Worthington and Zoe Saldana are almost passengers in their own film at times here. And it does feel like this film has been stretched out to 3 hours when it didn't need to be stretched out to 3 hours. I think you could have easily done this film in 2.5 hours and less. Probably saved a couple of 100 million, or at least 100 million on effects. You know what I mean? It just felt like at times it felt like a nature documentary. You know what I mean? Trying to wow us with this next piece of scenery or this next creature or this next, beautiful shot or something like that. And essentially, I think a lot of the visuals are covering up for a fairly weak story. Now, there was potential here, I think, and I'm wondering if they're going to explore this in the future films, because I think it would be wise to do it. I thought the Stephen Lang character, I thought him being added into this film as an avatar was going to be a weakness of the film. In actual fact, I thought it was one of the strengths of the film. Stephen Lang is always excellent anyway. But you got this vicious character in the first film being transferred into this avatar. And much of his personality is there. But you do at times see mercy and hints that there may be an arc for his character. Very similar to the Jake character in the first film. It's just going to be a longer and harder arc because he's such a hard-faced, vicious sod. Now, I thought they were going to take advantage of that in this film, and then I kind of realised, well, we've got about another 3 films to go, so maybe they're going to, arc that over the next few films. I would personally like to see the Stephen Lang character have an arc like that, a redemption arc, and become like a defender of the planet, very much like Jake, and they kind of join forces. I think if they don't do that, that'll be a missed opportunity. So there were hints of that. So you get that. You get the fish out of water story with him and his kids having to adapt to this new area of the planet with the water, getting to know the nature around them, the animals, the creatures, the plants, so on and so forth. And then the sky people searching them out and finding them, which leads to a confrontation at the end of the film. So it follows, I think, very closely the beats of the first film. But that doesn't make it a bad film, because the first film's not a bad film. So I was satisfied watching this, but not blown away, I think it's fair to say. I thought the additions of the characters were fine. I thought the motion capture was outstanding. And I thought it was ultimately an entertaining film. And in actual fact, because we're going to get the Avatar sequels fairly closely following this one, potentially, I think this series could end up being something really, really special if it continues with this kind of quality and maybe adding to it and improving on it. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. So I think it was a pretty good sequel. I just thought the story elements of it were fairly weak overall. But that's my take on Avatar: The Way of Water. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on the film. And of course, I will be back with more reviews on the channel very, very soon.